Welcome to In Progress, a podcast to help you grow and learn how to become a better version of yourself. Now, here's your host, Michael Cirigliano.
Welcome to In Progress. I'm your host, Michael Cirigliano, with special guest Pat Collins.
Hello. We are making it this way. Even you and I, even though, yes, we're not out there doing anything, we're part of the whole
machine.
Thing. Exactly. And we allowed this system to happen, and we continue to allow it to happen. Nothing, and the masses. Look, what are we doing? We're not doing anything. We're doing absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Except for some social justice shit where you post something up and put a little ring around your Facebook thing that says, I stand with so-and-so. Like,
doesn't do anything.
That's
no.
Nothing.
Exactly.
So that's why I posted something on just my Facebook maybe this morning even, where I was like, there's going to be a tipping point. Like, that's kind of what I mean when I say like a tipping point. Like, we're getting to this other side where or even like I feel like there is going to be something that happens things are happening, but like, I don't know if it's going to be a civil war or a revolution or what. But like, we have to stop allowing this stuff to happen, and until we rise up in mass, it's never going to change. So I believe that like it will change, and the only way it's going to change is to basically wipe it out and start over, as far as like our government, for instance.
Absolutely.
Like the way that we think. And is, again, back to the generational thing. Is it going to be a generational thing? Is it going to take 30, 40 years so that all the super racist people die, and then hopefully the people that are around now don't get so... but again, like, now we got these shooters who are 18 and they're already turning into racists because of what they're being taught by other people.
Absolutely.
Because you don't ever meet a racist kid until he gets taught it by his parent or the TV or wherever they learn
or
it.
friends.
Or
shit
whatever.
like that, yeah. Very impressionable at a young age, and like, if you're around those kind of people, not even at a young age, you're impressionable always.
Oh yeah.
And unless you're, like we were talking about before, unless you understand who you are and you're authentic to who you are, you're very susceptible to falling into those traps, I want to say, where you just go with whatever the group you're in does. And unless you can actually sit back and be authentic to who you are and love yourself and who you are,
self-love, yeah,
you're going to literally just do whatever the group says. And not a lot of people can do that. Like you,
they can, but it's just that they're not giving. They're put in a position to where it's just like really hard for, like, they're already behind the 8 ball, like, from the beginning. So it's not even that like they can't do it. It's that they might not even know that it's an option. A lot of them. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, our country is basically a competitive. It's built on competition.
Right.
Like you said with the Gucci bag. Like, there are a lot of people who want the Gucci bag not for themselves, but so that other people like their Gucci bag and comment on their Gucci bag.
Because if Gucci became unpopular and the next thing is Supreme or whatever it is, all of a sudden, they don't care about Gucci. They just care about what people think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem.
It's
all validation based.
Exactly. It comes down to not loving yourself.
Yeah.
If you love yourself, you don't care about what people think, because you know you're perfect already. And again, that comes down to spirituality, like knowing that we're all this one love. If everyone knew that, things would change instantly.
Absolutely.
Instantly. I mean, there's no question. It'd be so simple.
And that's the problem, is people are driven to keep up with other people. And you see it all the time. If you go out ever, you see people wearing the Jordans. Oh, why are you wearing the Jordans? You like the Jordans? Well, and it's not even like, even myself personally,
status, man. I'm cool. I'm better than the person who doesn't have Jordans.
Absolutely. And even myself personally, when I was working with you back at Sprint a long time ago, I was hanging around with people who were the brand of shoe was important. To me, it was never important. I was wearing Nikes and I was cool. I was wearing just regular shoes. I was cool. And then, Jordans are important. So what I do, $300, $400, $500 on Jordans just to fit in with that group.
You're not good enough without the Jordans. If you don't have the Jordans, you're looked down on. It's like, well,
yeah, exactly.
But then you got to think like, well, if you're looking down on me because of Jordans, then I don't really care about your opinion, because your whole mindset is fucked.
Exactly. And I feel like it comes to a place where, and it's shitty to say this, but I feel like this is real. Spirituality and self-love will only conquer when it's popular.
Yeah, it has to be
because of the same thing as what we're talking about with the shoes and the Gucci. Right. People only do it when it's popular. People only buy the Gucci when it's popular. I mean, back in the day, there was the Jenko jeans. Those were popular.
Yeah.
No one
They
would
were
touch
ugly as
Jenko
hell.
jeans now.
But I love
exactly.
those jeans, even though they look so stupid.
Yeah, because everyone else loved them.
But they were great.
Exactly, and I feel like it's always a monetary thing. You have to buy this thing. You have to go on these trips to show off these trips to other
It's always
people.
outside of yourself.
Exactly, and I don't think the spirituality and self-love will ever actually conquer anything until there's enough people preaching it.
But even then, it's like, yeah, but like, I mean, that could be true. But if you're just doing spirituality because someone's telling to you, it's still not authentic. You know what I mean? Like, spirituality comes from within.
True.
Although I suppose someone can point you in the right direction, and if it becomes popular enough, maybe you'll open your mind to considering maybe this is something that I can do, but it's always a personal thing.
Yeah, but you go back
But I
to the
can see what you're saying.
generational thing,
Yeah.
right? If you have parents who are being spiritual and are spiritual because it's popular, and then their kids see that spirituality because it's popular, the kids don't understand it's because it's popular, and the kids are raised in a household where
Right.
spirituality is the main.
You just want to get it in
and then
their
it
heads
continues
however way
moving.
it
Same
is.
thing as the racism. You're not racist as a kid. You're a blank slate as a child. As a baby coming into this world, you're a blank slate. And if spirituality was the norm and parents were spiritual, then that by default is going to push on to the next generation. Like you said, you were raised in a Christian household. So you grew up Christian. You might have not believed it fully because it wasn't popular anymore, but you were up to a certain
it made
point.
me think a lot.
Yes.
And like I remember I had a lot of questions, and a lot of it didn't make sense. Like this whole idea of, again, time is infinite. We're here for a second, and if you fuck it up, you're gonna burn for eternity. To me, that's a love.
Doesn't
God.
seem just.
That's love. That's unconditional love. I don't know about that. If you don't worship me, then you're gonna go to hell. What? But like,
It seems
but
like I
the
was
stuff-
watching a video. I was watching a video where this guy was like, people with anxiety. The reason why they have anxiety is because there's a disproportionate reaction to a scenario, right? So he was saying, if you come on stage right now, people who are anxious are going to like flip out. You're going to like be shaking and you're going to be all nervous. Is that a proportionate response to
what's
this
happening?
scenario?
Right.
No. And that's the same thing
And
with
it's
the
all
whole
in your
hell
head.
thing. It's like,
Yeah.
if you're bad on earth, is burning for eternity
Think about how long
proportional
eternity
to
is.
Yeah, you're literally
doesn't
here
have-
for
Yeah.
100 years max.
So that's fear-based, right?
Yes.
And to me, it's like, and even as a kid, I thought like that doesn't seem right. Like why is God this scary guy who's going to scare us into submission? And again, not to mention he's the father, and every prophet's always been a dude, and that's a whole other thing. Like, where's all the female prophets? Where's God? Where's God the mother?
Doesn't exist.
But it does.
It does, but not in
like,
the religion.
Because God is everything, and God has no sex. God is masculine and the feminine. God's the yin yang. Basically.
Yeah.
God's the Tao. God's everything. But I remember being raised Christian though. I remember the stuff that Jesus said. I was just like, oh, okay. Because one of the big reasons that I was never a materialistic person, and I remember we had fights about this before.
Oh, we had fights about
was
this.
like, because I remember this one thing he said, like basically like if you see a guy without a shirt, you should take off your shirt and give it to them. And I remember thinking like, whoa, that is like, that's some shit. Like that's some real love. That's real love.
Absolutely.
And it's like this guy doesn't care about the shirt. He cares about his brother, who is himself.
Brother.
Oh yeah. But like and like stuff like that, or just like treat not treat others the way you want to be treated, because that's kind of like I don't think that's quite the way to do it. But like
No.
love, but it's really just like love your neighbor as yourself.
Just
How
unconditional
do you
love.
fuck with? And if we did that, and like that Jesus stuff was legit. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like yes, love again, unconditional love. If we all embodied unconditional love, none of this stuff would ever happen.
No.
Because how could you? Because if it's like this is my body, right? Imagine this is the human race or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like the hands are fighting each other, but like because we don't have a head to say, "Yo, hello, you're fighting yourself." We're all one body. you
Exactly.
idiot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut off my left arm. Now I have one arm. That was my arm.
Yeah. Exactly. And it doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. And again, it comes down to parents have to do this stuff, but the parents are so brainwashed and just they're already screwed up. So it's like you hear about like breaking generational curses and stuff like that. It's like and I do believe that we're kind of we're that generation who has to do this stuff.
Absolutely.
And
We have the tools to do so. And that's the thing is we have it at our disposal, but we're using it in a way that's almost encouraging the divisiveness.
Oh yeah.
Like TikTok, for example, Instagram, any of it. Like you fall into an algorithm, whatever that algorithm may be, and your algorithm shows your TikTok, your Instagram feed is going to be based on what you believe in, and then the next person, your TikTok and my TikTok, probably different.
Way different, yeah.
And that's because we both have different values. And when you get to a point where you're one of these extreme white supremacists, extreme BLM, extreme anti-white, whatever it is, your feed is going to feed into that.
And it's going to prove to you
that you're right.
Exactly. And that even happens in the mind. There's this, it's called the Reticular Activating System. I learned this in Agent Pro, right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't work there, but I did. Anyway, whatever. But yes, you know what I'm talking about. So like when the example that I use a lot of times is like when you get a new car, you get a Toyota Corolla, which I used to drive, all of a sudden you see Corollas everywhere. And it's like, wow, there's so many Corollas, way more than before. But it's like, no, there's not more than before. You're looking for them now because you have it on the mind, so you notice it more. And like in past relationships, my ex-girlfriend, for instance, she had it in her head that I was lying to her about everything. So she just had it in her head, like, no matter what I said, I was lying, you're lying, you're lying. So then she would search for things to prove that she was right. Like, oh, see, you did that, so that means you were lying. It's like, well, no. And I kept telling her, like, you need to change what you're looking for. Why aren't you looking for me, the loving boyfriend, which is what I was, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, then you would start to see proof that I am the loving boyfriend. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to find it.
Exactly.
Not to, social media, but even just in the world.
And yeah, exactly.
And it all starts, again, it's the mindset. So it's like, you have to, because you can't, obviously, everyone here has parents already, and half of them, more parents than not are screwing it up, I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
If you look at how bad the world is, if parents were doing a good job, the world would not be so messed up, obviously. But then
100%.
But they blame their parents, and they blame their parents. It's like, the buck has to stop somewhere.
Absolutely.
Somebody has to say, enough is enough. We're doing things differently.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And the accountability, no one really likes having that accountability, and that's a problem. Like,
oh yeah, you can blame them.
Yeah, everyone wants to blame somebody else, and it's like, okay, you can blame somebody else, but you can also take a step back, and this is what I've learned to do. Take a step back. Where did I go wrong in all of this? No matter what it is. Where did I go? What could I have done differently to make this outcome be different? You know? And it's like, a lot of people don't like doing that. Yeah, exactly. You can only control yourself. So instead of sitting there and blaming the next person, the harder thing to do, but the more effective thing to do, is where was I wrong? Because you're always wrong. Is that you're never right. You could be right about something, but if something goes haywire, you played some part in that regard, even if you let somebody just do something.
You're not right. You can't be right, but like, because I think everything you do is what you believe is right in that moment. So you have to like give yourself that, because like a lot of times you look back in the past and say, oh my God, I did all these horrible things. I was such an asshole. And you got to forgive yourself, because that past you thought that they were doing the right thing at the time. Even these horrible people think that they're doing what's best for them. At that moment, they're trying to find happiness somehow.
Exactly.
And even if in the twisted way where it's, if I have to kill someone to find some fulfillment, that's how twisted their mind has become. But they're still trying to just find their own happiness, and they think that the only way that they can do it is to blank, to do whatever, some horrible act or whatever it is. But it always just comes down to, you and your choice, and you know, you got to be responsible.
Absolutely. And now I want to kind of switch a little bit to the movie that you told me to watch. So the movie Everything, Everywhere, All the Time.
Oh, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
All at Once.
Amazing movie.
Great movie.
Watch.
Great movie.
Everybody should
recommend it.
So
absolutely.
Good. It's a 10 out of 10. A little funky sometimes, but very funny.
It gets funky. But so the alternate universe.
Oh, I love this stuff.
That's a weird concept to me.
It's proven.
It's proven.
Quantum physics. Yeah.
So, in an alternate, so my understanding of the movie was, you make a choice, and then in that moment when you make the choice, another universe opens up where you made the other choice, and then your life exists from there, and then you made a choice in that life, and another one, and it keeps spider webbing out. So, where do you think you are in another life? Like where?
Well, there's a infinite amount of me's who are having this exact same conversation, but I'm wearing a blue shirt, red shirt, Maybe I'm not wearing a hat. Maybe I have long hair. Maybe I don't have a beard. So there's a lot. I feel like if I'm just guessing because it's infinite. It's like you've seen Rick and Morty, maybe, have you?
Yeah.
It's the same idea. Like there's any possibility that you can imagine exists in some universe, in some parallel dimension, right? So it's like a lot of me are just doing this. Some of me are doing so many different things. All of my ex-girlfriends, I'm sure some of me stayed with some of them. I might have families and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or like, career paths that I considered, maybe I went down that road or whatever, So it could be anything. I mean, yeah.
Now, do you think, so that movie was pretty cool because they were able to access those other universes. Do you think there's a way, because I know with Dolores Cannon Past Life Regression, do you think that there's a way that you can kind of
like jump to another timeline?
Because I know there's been supposedly ways you could do that.
There's this one book that I read, I don't know if it's over there, called Quantum Jumping.
No. Not here.
But it's...
Unless it's this one.
It has to do with...
no, that's not it.
No, that's the... No. But like, basically, the placebo effect, some people will explain that as you're actually doing a timeline jump. Just a small one. So
Really?
like, for instance, you know about the placebo effect?
Yeah.
Where like you take a pill that's really nothing, but you still get healed for whatever reason?
Yeah, exactly.
And they've done some really, really interesting tests with this. The one that really got me the most was, I don't know if it was NBA players or just athletes of some sort with like knee problems. They needed to get like their meniscus repaired or something.
Yeah.
So there was like, again, I don't know the numbers, but a group of each on each side, several on each side, and half of the people got the surgery. The other half of the people, they just cut them open and then they just sewed them back, but they didn't get the surgery. But everyone recovered. So
Really?
Like, how do you explain that? And that's when you hear about mind over matter. Like that's kind of, but they explain it so it's like it's not that your mind is healing you, it's that you're just jumping into a universe where you're already healed. And that's what a lot of the past life regression stuff is about too. It's like you're just switching to the ultimate or the timeline, the more preferred timeline, basically.
Yeah.
And there are some of these like channel people who are like channel beings from whoever, which are all us obviously, but like advanced versions of us who are like giving us hints and stuff like that, say. And they basically explain it like, because there's only the present moment.
Correct.
Always. So like even this conversation, even me saying these words, like it's an infinite, like billions of moments between me saying hello and finishing the word.
Yeah.
Like how many, so in each moment I'm actually switching, I could potentially be switching timelines if I wanted to in each moment.
Okay.
So like,
it's getting deep.
I'm losing. I know. So like the you that walks in the room is not the same you that leaves. It's a completely different person. The only thing that connects us and gives us history is the idea that we have that we live in this linear time. Because I mean, outside of the three-dimensional world that we live in, like there is no time. You hear about like there's no time and space. It's all everything's happening at once. So like me and you talking now. Me and you who were talking a second ago is also happening now.
Yeah.
And me and you talking last podcast is also happening right now, and there's no difference. The only thing that gives us this idea of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is just the idea that we believe in it. If we didn't believe in it, so like, but we're kind of meant to, because we live here for a reason. We're here to experience things in this certain way. But I think it's possible to do more crazy things with our minds and stuff. But I think our human minds aren't really capable of doing that yet, and that's why we're not doing it. But I mean, I know there's one dude on TikTok who like has this crazy story about how he says that he was living in a parallel universe and then like he died or something and he got transported to this one and he like remembers his last one where like they didn't use the Gregorian character, they did like CE instead of AD, so it was like back in my world it was, and again this could be bullshit, but I mean it's very possible as well. Like it is possible, and the reason that I say that it's been proven is because like they use a good example about like plants, like photosynthesis. They use there's something called a superposition of states where like a cell again exists in every position all at once and just kind of like picks the best one. So like they use an example of like photosynthesis. They're taking the sun in order to give the nutrients or whatever. But say there's like 5 different ways for them to take it in, and one of the ways is like the best one. So instead of like taking the first road and then saying, no, that's not it. Taking the second road, saying, no, that's not it. And then just guess and check type thing. You just do them all at once, and they just pick the best one instantly. And that's how photosynthesis works.
Yeah.
So, and then again, and then you'll hear about like light waves. Or is a light a wave or a particle? But it's both. But how could it be both at the same time? It doesn't really make sense. But it has to be one or the other, because we live in this dualistic world. It has to be good or evil. It has to be Democrat, Republican. It has to be one or the other.
It can't be both.
But it is both. But it is. So like the only thing that makes it change is our perception. So they did studies where they showed like they did a test with the light waves, and it showed that they were like particles, one or the other. And then when someone was observing them, they became waves. I think it was the opposite actually. When no one was looking, they behaved as waves. But then once someone was paying attention, they behaved as particles. But it's like, so it only changed based on the person who was the viewer of it.
But it changed in real life. Like,
yeah, like
it was actually recorded as changed.
Right. Like they saw the dots on the thing were different. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I'm very novice when it comes to like fucking quantum physics.
But I have heard
quantum physics is basically the science of the parallel universe stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a thing.
I've heard stories. There's two that stand out to me. One is there was a story that I heard, and I'm saying story, so it could not be true. Yeah. But this person said that they were driving a car, and when they were driving the car, they came up to a green light, and they ran right through the green light, and somebody came through, crossed over, and got in an accident. And they closed their eyes because they just got in an accident, so they hit and closed their eyes.
Yes.
And then when they opened them back up, they were driving.
Yeah.
And he was like, I couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
I don't know how this happened, but I know for a fact that I got into an accident, and then when I opened my eyes, I was driving, and none of it happened.
That was actually that same exact story was in that. It's Cynthia Sue Larson. I'm remembering is who wrote this book, and it's called Quantum Jumping. And they used that was an example of that exact story, or a very similar one, where same thing, like they were about to die, whatever, close their eyes, and then boop, it's almost like they teleported a little bit over, and they were like, what the hell? And it was like they just jumped into another timeline where they were just, where they didn't die.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
which is crazy.
Or like, and she had an example where she had like lost her her watch or her key or whatever it was, and she just kind of was like kept telling herself, like she kept reminding herself, like, okay, the idea of like when they talk about manifestation, it's always like you want to think about already having whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
So she just kept doing that and saying, okay, I'm so happy I found my key. I'm so happy I found my key. And she kept doing that. And then she checked this drawer like a million times, and eventually it was just there in the drawer that she had checked a million times. But she was able to use her mind to convince herself that she was in the world where it was there, and it was eventually. Similar.
You're basically that's a way to quantum jump then, in a sense.
I mean, manifestation is kind of the same thing as quantum jumping. You're just kind of jumping into the universe where you have the thing that you want, basically.
Which is fantastic. That's a very slept on tool.
Which is a very ego thing.
It is huge.
I mean, I don't really like manifestation because it really reinforces the idea that we are identifying with ourselves and we have wants and needs, when really, like, the more that you think about Buddhism, like the more suffering comes from wanting things.
Yeah.
So as soon as you stop caring about the outcome, it happens, or whatever happens. But like you're not. It's about the journey, not the destination type.
Absolutely.
Thing. So, yeah, I don't know, man.
But the other one that I heard was this guy woke up from a dream, and in this dream, he lived his life. He had a family. He had a wife. He lived this life for years. I'm talking like 40, 50 years. A job, everything. He lived it all. And then he had a heart attack in this dream. And then he woke up from the dream. And he woke up next to his girlfriend. And he said that for the next month, he was mourning the loss of his family because it was so real.
Yeah.
So he had a dream, but it was a 50-year dream. And like, granted, dream time is not the same as real time, but 50 years, that's a long time. I've never been able to dream longer than like a day or two. So like, That's a long time. And that, to me, was like, that could have been that. Where he was actually living. His consciousness was in another reality for a given amount of time, died, and then he just jumped. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, what if that's how everything works? Where you never die. You just continue on as the next universe.
I mean, that's what
forever.
That's what Dolores Cannon kind of talks about, where it's like, basically, like you live all these parallel lives, and then eventually you all die, and then you kind of like collect all the information that you learned from every life, and then you do it again, or you do whatever, after that.
Yeah.
But it's like, so that's why I like this a lot too, because I want to say lazy, but like, I'm pretty lazy, I don't really care to do a lot of stuff. Like I'll have these ideas, and it's like, unless I'm like really amped about it, I lose interest very, very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. So like I'll come up with these ideas that I think are great, and I think they are. I still do. I have a million of them, but like rarely do I actually follow through with them, because it's like I start to do it, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this. Let's go to the next idea. But the way I kind of justify it, or not even justify it, but like what makes me feel good about it is like, well, I know another me's going to do it. So like as soon as I come up with the idea,
that's made to put it on another you. Yes, exactly.
So like I'm the Pat. I'm like, I like to think of myself as like the brainstorming alpha Pat, who just kind of like, I like come up with all the ideas, and then all the other Pats do all this shit. It's like and
then eventually you'll end up in the life where you did them all, and
then eventually like I'll die, and then I'll be like, oh, so if I did this, oh, that's what would have happened. Oh, cool. And then you can go back and experience it or whatever.
That's kind of a phenomenal mindset.
It is, although the one thing that I don't like about it is it kind of gives me it almost makes me like, it gives me an excuse to do nothing, but at the same time, like,
you're doing something.
I don't like to do shit anyway. But also like, no, it's like once I come up with the idea, it's like I can imagine how it happens. Like, okay, so I do this, and then this is how it goes. I'm like, yes, all right, good. Now I'm at the end. I'm done. It's like, well, no, now you got to do it. It's like, no, I don't. I already did it in my head. Mm-hmm. Now I'm on to the next thing.
Someone else is going to do it.
Now I'm on to the next thing,
Exactly.
But even if a parallel me doesn't do it, someone else will do it. Mm-hmm. And that's me too. Like you hear about examples where like many times this has happened where there's like an invention happens, but like two or three people will come up with the same invention at the same time, but they're like opposite sides of the world.
Yeah.
Because like there's that collective unconscious, like you can tap into that, and like there's like these ideas that are kind of floating out there, and that's why like if you want to succeed and be the best person, as soon as you get the idea, jump on it and do it before someone else does, because like it's out there. As soon as you get the idea, there's a good chance someone else is getting that idea at the same time. So you better do it if you want to be ahead. Exactly. But if you don't care about being ahead, which is like, I don't give a shit about being ahead because I'm already perfect, I'm already here, like everything's good.
Yeah.
Let someone else be ahead, and like that's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then you see that thing and you're like, oh, thought of that.
Yeah, that was mine. But it wasn't mine because it was ours. It's always ours.
We all grabbed onto it.
But yeah. So like, yeah.
So for anyone watching the podcast, what would you think is the most important thing for them to take from today's episode with you?
Jeez. Well, don't get too on the whole, there's no good and evil. School shootings are not bad or something like that, because obviously it's a horrible, horrible thing for the people who have to experience the pain of loss and everything. But I would say, I mean, I believe that you kind of know what your life's going to be before you come here anyway. So like, this is going to sound cold and horrible, but like, these kids knew what they were signing up for, and I know this is so bad. This sounds so bad. This sounds so bad. But like, they're cool. They're living in heaven right now or whatever. They're cool. Everything's good. Like, everything that we experience is just a blink of an eye in the infinite universe that we live in, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's all good no matter what happens. We focus so much on like the negative and how it hurts us as individuals and stuff like that. And yes, we're doing a really bad job, and I think if we continue down this road, we're going to basically self-destruct and like kill ourselves. We're going to end up, the world's going to be on fire, and we're just going to be done. Yeah. And then this version of Earth is done, and then maybe another one survives. But like, I don't know, I'm just going off on a huge tangent here. But what do I think people need to know? They need to know that, like, again, I mean, same thing as always. There's only one thing, and it's this one awareness. Mm-hmm. And we are all it. We're all just experiencing different angles of it. So like, if there's a big sphere, we're all in the center of it, looking out, but we're all just looking out at a different angle of it. But it's all just one thing. It's all just one brain. We're all the same people. So like, if we can wrap our minds around that, the conflict goes away, because again, you're not going to punch yourself in the face.
Right.
If you knew that I was you, you wouldn't want to fuck me over and beat me. You're going to beat yourself?
Makes no sense.
So it's like, there's ways. I mean, psychedelics are a great door to open to kind of maybe help you experience this directly. But even just things like the power of now, or just, there's different things you can do to kind of look into this, but really just like, if people could get into just introspection and like meditation and just like thinking for themselves and like trusting their instincts and their intuition, it's always love. Like, you never, like, again, babies don't want to kill each other,
Yeah.
That's a learned thing. So I think if we just focus on, again, trusting ourselves, unity, wholeness, oneness, that's what's going to fix everything. It just comes down to like, how quickly can we do it? And I don't know. I just really want to see what happens. I'm so curious to see how this all goes.
It's going to be a crazy ride.
And I know, I really do truly believe that we are going to come out of this and we're not going to explode the world, because you do see a lot of people who are waking up and like, I think if we just keep focusing on the good and focusing on the positive and focusing on personal responsibility, the only thing you can really control is your own mind and how you react to things. And if you can find a way to, harness that and use it for good and see that, anything you want to do, you can do, and, respect the free will of other people and all that, like, I mean, that's how we're going to come out of this. It's the way we're going to come out of this, by changing our entire perspective and going from, competition and separation to cooperation and unity, and that's what it's going to be.
Absolutely. And then for people who want to be woke, who want to experience that, who want to be in a mindset of cooperation, not competition, what would you recommend them do to get to that mindset?
I mean, for me, like, the power of now is a really good tool. Eckhart Tolle, he talks a lot about that.
He's fantastic.
And he describes it in a very analytical way, because we live in this left brain type way of thinking, where we're very, show me the proof, like, explain it to me with words.
Yeah.
When really you can't explain things with words. You can just kind of point to the truth and kind of hope you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Because the words are always just kind of pointing to what it actually is. But he does a really good job of it, kind of explaining, how the mind will just mess with you, and how like depression is basically just focusing on the past and like identifying with these negative past events and stuff.
Yeah.
And anxiety is basically just same thing, focusing on this negative future. And how really just being present, if you look around now, it's like there's all these horrible things going on in the world, right? So everything should be horrible, we should be feeling bad. But if we look around, like, could you point to the problem in this room? Like, where's the problem? Like, physically, do you see what's the problem? There is none. Because it's all of our problems are in here.
Yeah.
So if we can master our minds, but like, yeah, so like there are some good literature like that. I think meditation is huge. I think the best way to really learn anything is through experience. So like, yes, reading a book is great, but you have to be able to incorporate it into your life. You have to be able to have experienced it or be able to experience it. And I do think 100% psychedelics are a humongous way, if you're a doubter on any of this spiritual stuff, or like, no, this guy's like, talking about the universe and we're all one and multiple, all this stuff. If you don't believe any of that, like, I need proof, take 5 grams of mushrooms, go in your room, turn the lights off, just go into your head and just see what happens, because experience is number one.
Absolutely.
So I think that, but yeah, I mean, really just, all that stuff, yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today,
thank you,
Pat.
man. Appreciate
Absolutely. Anyone who's watching this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions you have for Pat, any comments you want to leave for Pat, feel free to put it in the comments or DM me. We'll make sure to get to them and bring them back on for another episode. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.